everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Alexa. Today we're making Rocky Road cupcakes. I measured out all my ingredients and I recommend that you do so too. You can find a full list of ingredients and measurements in the link in the description. Remember to watch the video first so you can be prepared.
First, I'm going to put a half a cup of water in a saucepan on the stove. Once it starts to simmer, I'm going to add in my cocoa powder and whisk until it is combined. After that is mixed in, I'm going to pour in the remaining 1 cup of water and stir it until the water is mixed in. This looks great, so I'm going to set this aside off the stove and move on to the next step. Next, I'm going to sift my baking powder, cake flour, and all-purpose flour. This is to make sure there are no clumps. If you don't have a sifter, you can use a wire whisk or a fork. When you're sifting, you can push the ingredients through using a rubber spatula or a spoon, or you can tap the sides of it with your hands. Now that my ingredients have all fallen through, I'm going to tap the sides of my sifter so I can make sure no ingredients are stuck to its stand. If your sifter doesn't have a stand, you don't need to do this step. Now I'm going to cream my butter in the bowl of my stand mixer. Before I did this, I cut the butter into small pieces to make this easier. Creaming your butter means putting it into your mixer and letting it mix by itself so it loosens and actually becomes creamy. This will allow it to combine better with the rest of your ingredients. Some recipes will tell you to cream your butter with your sugar, but I find that it combines better when you cream it by itself first. When the butter starts sticking to the sides of my bowl, I'm going to scrape it down using my rubber spatula. My butter looks good, so I'm going to add in the brown sugar and granulated sugar. I'm going to mix this for about 4 minutes until it is light in color and fluffy. In order for this to happen the fastest and the best, make sure to scrape down your bowl whenever the ingredients are stuck to it. My batter looks great so far, so I'm going to add in one of the eggs. I'm going to mix this until the egg is fully incorporated. My ingredients don't look to be mixing as well as I'd hoped for them to, so I'm going to quickly scrape down my bowl. Now I'm going to add in the second egg. I can see some egg that hasn't mixed in, so I'm going to scrape down my bowl again. Now I'm going to add in the final egg and my vanilla extract. I'm going to mix this until it's completely mixed in. I'm going to make sure all my ingredients are mixing well by scraping down my bowl again. I'm going to mix this a little longer to make sure everything is mixing well. I can see some ingredients not mixed in on my beater, so I'm going to scrape it down and mix my batter a little longer. Everything looks good so far, so I'm going to add in about a third of my sifted dry ingredients from before. It doesn't need to be exact. I'm going to mix them in until you can't see any non-mixed ingredients. My flour mixture is sticking to the sides of my bowl, so I'm going to scrape it down. add in my next ingredients now, even though some of the flour mixture still isn't mixed in. This is because it'll mix in with the next ingredients, and we don't want to make sure we don't overmix our batter. Now I'm going to add in about half of my cocoa powder mixture. Make sure it is cooled off to room temperature when you add it in so it doesn't melt the butter or cook the eggs. Also start the mixer on low so it doesn't fly everywhere and make a mess. My batter doesn't look to be mixing as well as I'd like it to, so I'm going to scrape down my bowl again. I'm going to add in about half of my remaining dry ingredients. My dry ingredients are once again sticking to the sides of my bowl, so I'm going to scrape it down again. Now I'm going to add in the rest of the cocoa powder mixture. I'm going to scrape out the saucepan with a rubber spatula to make sure as much of it as possible gets added into my mixing bowl. Some of my ingredients are sticking to the sides of my bowl, so I'm going to scrape my bowl down again before I add in the rest of my ingredients. Now I'm going to add in the rest of my dry ingredients. I'm going to mix this until they're entirely mixed in. My dry ingredients are sticking to the sides of my bowl again, so now I'm going to scrape it down again. I'm going to mix this a little longer to combine them. Some ingredients are not mixed in and are stuck to my beater, so I'm going to scrape down my bowl again. I'm going to mix it a little longer now to combine everything. My batter looks great, so let's move on to the next step. Now I'm going to scoop the cupcakes. To do this, I'm using in 1/3 of a cup ice cream scoop, but you can use a measuring cup if you'd prefer. Just make sure to fill whatever you use all the way to the top to ensure that all the cupcakes will be the same size. Next, I'm going to put my cupcakes into the oven. My oven's preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. My cupcakes took 20 minutes to bake. First, set a timer for 18 minutes and another for a few more minutes if they aren't done yet. When they're done, if you place your finger lightly into the top of them, they should pop back up, or you can use a toothpick and insert it into the center of the cupcake and it should come out clean. Put them onto a cooling rack so they can cool. Now, I'm going to get started on the ganache for my frosting. To do this, I'm going to scald my cream on the stove. Scalding the cream means you're heating the milk on medium to medium-low to just below boiling, and then slightly cooling it by taking it off the burner and letting it sit for a few minutes. You should have tiny bubbles across the edges, and a thin skin usually forms on the surface. You can stir the film back into the mixture before cooling. If it doesn't dissolve back in, you can remove any leftover part of the film. After the cream is scalded, I'm going to pour it on top of my chocolate chips. I'm going to let this sit for 5 minutes. Do not touch it before the 5 minutes is up. You may want to stir it, but make sure not to do that until the 5 minutes pass. Make sure your bowl of chocolate is not on a cool surface because you don't want your cream to cool off too fast. You can place a dish towel or a pot holder underneath the bowl. After 5 minutes, I'm going to whisk this until the chocolate is fully mixed into the cream. Then I'm going to add in my butter, cut into small pieces so that it'll mix in better, and corn syrup, and whisk until these ingredients are also fully combined. If your mixture has cooled too much to make the butter melt in, just microwave for a few second intervals to warm it up enough for the butter to melt. After that, I'm going to put it into the refrigerator for 20 minutes. After the 20 minutes have passed, I'm going to take it out of the fridge to stir it and to see if it's the right texture. When it's the right texture, it should be thick and spreadable so you can put it onto the cupcakes. For me, that took 40 minutes, but it can take up to 2 hours. Take it out every 20 minutes to stir it to see how it is working. Now that my frosting is the right consistency, I'm going to add in my mini marshmallows. I'm going to mix this until they're evenly mixed in. At this point, if you want to add toasted nuts, you will do so. I'm going to mix in the marshmallow fluff. Mix it only a little bit so it'll swirl and isn't fully mixed in. Then I'm going to scoop out a little bit of the center of my cupcake using a grapefruit spoon. You can also use another spoon if you don't have one, but I find that these work very well because of the jagged edges. Then I'm going to scoop enough of marshmallow fluff into the center of the cupcake that it fills the hole. Next, I'm going to put a scoop of the frosting mixture from earlier on top of it. And my Rocky Road cupcakes are done and looking delicious. Please let me know what you thought of the video in the comments and how the recipe went for you. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you can see when new videos are added. Thank you and enjoy!